What is going on, everybody? It's Lazivo here. I normally make gameplay videos or something about video games and post them on the internet, but today I wanted to do something totally different. I wanted to tell you guys a story that happened 10 years ago this day, and I guess it's not a very happy story, but maybe it has a happier ending. But it starts with me being in college. You guys know I was in a fraternity. I was in Phi Kappa Theta fraternity. The photo on your screen here is a picture of the house that I used to live at when I was up there. This is our fraternity house, and this is in the middle of winter. You can see all the snow on the cars and the trees. This is pretty typical. I mean, they get a lot of snow, something like 250 inches a year or something like that. So it's pretty cold up there. But anyway, this is a picture of the house that I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of memories in that house. So I joined Phi Kappa Theta in the spring of '99. And here you're looking at a picture of our crest. And one of the things I thought when I got into the fraternity is that it was just going to be, the best place to bond with people. The Greek community at our school was huge. It was something upwards of 40% of people were in the Greek community, so it was pretty high. And it was a good way to be social. It was a good way to have new friends, and it was also way cheaper than living in the dorms. So I know some people are like, "Hey, you pay for your friends," but it was cost effective when I was there. And the other thing is, my greatest friends today came from the fraternity. My best friends in the world today are from the fraternity. The bonds that you form in that was just unbelievable. Our chapter was the Chi Rho chapter of Phi Kappa Theta. So the picture you're looking at here is the Chi Rho crest. This was our local crest. And it has the Latin Via Veritas Vita, which is the words of Christ. Kind of important, but it's Via Veritas Vita, which means I am the way, the truth, and the life. And that kind of reverts back to our fraternity, our local chapter's Catholic beginnings. That was sort of started as a Catholic group in the beginning of its life. But anyway, that's a picture of our crest, which I happen to really like. One thing I loved about our fraternity is it had a really rich history. Been around for 6 decades, and so many different people have been through there. And that's kind of one of the neat things about the bonds of brotherhood is it doesn't just connect you with the people that are there while you're in school. You're automatically connected to all of these people all around the world that have been at your same fraternity house and been through your same experiences or very similar experiences. And you're automatically have this bond of brotherhood. You can meet somebody that you've never met before, and you give them the handshake, and you just know that you have a connection with that person, which is really neat. So I just wanted to show you kind of like pictures throughout history that I have of showing you these groups of brothers that went through just like I did. And you'll notice the sexy guy in the end here in the striped rugby shirt. I think those were those were in style back then, right? But yeah, that's me. I suppose our fraternity was pretty simple. Most nights you could find a group of people hanging out at the bar in the basement here, just like this. Having a few beers and just relaxing. If there wasn't a party, there was definitely at least someone to hang out with. It's kind of like Cheers, I guess. Everybody knew your name, and you could just hang out downstairs and have a good time. And that's kind of typically where you'd find people. So not only did we know how to have a good time, we did take things pretty serious. You're looking at, this is the wall where we used to keep all our awards. And the most prestigious one is that little cup up at the top. That's the Founders Cup, which we won in 1999. They only give that to one Phi Kappa Theta chapter every year, and that's for the most outstanding chapter within Phi Kappa Theta. So out of, roughly 70 or 80 chapters, we were the best. So we knew how to have fun, and we knew how to take things seriously when we had to. And yeah, it was just a perfect environment to be in. And so my story really starts in the summer of 2002, and this is the way I remember the house. The last time I was there, I went up there 4th of July in the summer of 2002 and spent about a week there on vacation. And this is how I remember the house. This is how it is in my mind. And the reason I say that this is how I remember it is because on the morning of August 13th, 2002, I got a phone call saying that our fraternity house was on fire. This definitely wasn't the phone call that I wanted to hear. I was president of the fraternity at the time, and I was working at a co-op 9 hours away from there, and so it wasn't very easy to just get up there and get to. And I was worried. We had about 7 or 8 guys living in the house at the time for the summer, going to summer school, which was pretty typical. And my first thought was just, is everybody okay? As the firefighters kept battling the fire, I was talking on the phone with the vice president of the fraternity, who happened to be up there, and he was sort of managing things up there, feeding me information, and he informed me that one of our brothers, Andy, was missing, and that really worried me. And Andy was sort of known for coming in real late. He had a job, I think it was at a bar, and they would often close the bar at 2, and they'd have to clean up and things afterwards. But then the employees might hang out there for a little while and just relax a little bit after work. And so it was common for him to come home at 4 or 5 in the morning, and no one was up to see him come home. His car was parked at the house, but as far as everyone knew, he never came home. They didn't know. So he was still unaccounted for at this point. The fire department that came to help was unbelievable. I should say fire departments. They came from multiple counties. They were just so concerned for what was happening and what was going on, and they battled this fire as best they could. They said it was one of the hottest fires they've ever seen. That house was originally built in 1800s, 1890 something, and we always kind of used to joke that if this thing ever catches fire, it's going to go up in flames, because it was all just old, dry wood. It's an old farmhouse, and it was built as a carriage house or something, and we used to joke about it, but we never thought it would become a reality. From talking to the guys that did make it out, they said that the smoke was so thick you couldn't see your hand in front of your face. I've been fortunate enough never to be in a house fire, but I've been around this tragic event more than once, and they all say that smoke is really disorienting. You'd think when you wake up that you'd be able to make it out of such a familiar environment. You know where the doors are in your house and the windows and things, but I guess it's really disorienting. And probably maybe the chemicals that are burning are something that you're breathing, kind of limits the oxygen to your brain, and it makes it really hard to think straight and kind of get out. So you can kind of see from this picture that the side closest to the street was sort of intact, and the whole back side of the house was almost completely gone. It was I don't know if you can sort of see the roof sloping down in this picture, and it was gone. They said it burned so fast and so hot. I think the fire started around 6:45 in the morning, 6:30, and I think it was finally out sometime around 8:30. So they battled it for a while, but those guys did an amazing job. They were even concerned with cooling off our beer for us. Of course, we always had barrels on tap, so no surprise that there was one in the house here, and probably cooling it off just to get it out, maybe just to touch it. I don't know. I just thought it was kind of a funny picture. This was a picture of Brutus the Immortal. That's what we used to name him. This was our house plant. This thing lived off of like cigarette butts and beer, and the thing wouldn't die. Every couple of years, somebody would throw Miracle Grow in it, and the thing would just keep on going, take off. But even Brutus was put to the test on a day like this. But I will be happy to say that he did survive, and to the last of my knowledge, he still exists somewhere up in Michigan Tech, and I don't think Brutus is ever going to die. But he did make a full recovery. So as the firefighters got the fire pretty much out, they sort of extended the ladder. This is up to a room we used to call the attic, and that happened to be Andy's room for the summer. And you can kind of see the brothers that were in the house. They're in front there, just sort of holding their breath, waiting on what kind of news that they're gonna have when they come out of this room and what they're gonna find. And unfortunately, that's when they were given the bad news that Andy was in fact home, and he was in his room, and he just never woke up. Smoke inhalation is ultimately what made him pass away. And I think at that point, everyone was in shock. I know I was. When I got that phone call, like I said, I was at work. I almost had a breakdown. I've never been close to that before, but I almost had a breakdown right in the office. And luckily, I kept it together in time, enough to say I need to go. And on the drive home, I remember I just crying by myself. It was sad. It was like the house and A&D put together just made it one of the saddest things, that I've ever experienced. And it's so tragic, that it happens to someone this young, and it happened to something and someone that you love, so much, that everybody. I mean, Andy was the nicest guy in the world, one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. And I know they say that about a lot of people, but he really was. He'd do anything for anybody. And so I remember just driving home from work, remembering how tragic that was, and man, it puts a pit in my stomach just sort of thinking about how I felt that day. But I think we were all a little bit in shock. I think the news just sort of took everybody by surprise. You can sort of see just like, this isn't really happening. That was kind of the feeling. It's like, this isn't real. I'm gonna wake up from this, and it's not really gonna be true. There's no way that. The house is still there. This is just a horrible dream. Some of you guys might recognize John Michaels in this picture, also known as Stumpy. He recently passed away. He's the one closest to us in the bandana. And I did a little tribute video to him. I'll link that in the description as well. You guys can have a look at that. But he was there for all this and so helpful during all this. And everyone was just in shock. After sort of the news settled in with everybody, it became apparent that we needed to focus on what to do with this house. The fire department approached us and basically said it's unstable, it's going to fall over, and they would rather knock it over than let it fall over by itself and hurt somebody. So one of the things that they had to first do is they had to do an investigation to figure out where the fire started, what caused it. And ultimately what they decided is that they found a burner open on the stove, a valve was open, and the summers up there are notorious for the house being filthy. Normally what's taken care of by 22 guys is being taken care of by 6 or 7, so they had let things go. The stove was probably filthy, grease everywhere, somebody leaves a burner on, it ignites. You can look, this is where the back side of our house, right where our kitchen was, and you can kind of see like that wall looks like the fire started in the kitchen and just traveled straight up the wall and sort of burned its way down. So the last thing we had to do really before they did knock the house down is we took our letters off. We said those are an important thing to us, and they let us get up there and helped us take those off. We didn't know where we were going to be, but we knew that we were going to take our letters. Like, the house was loved by everyone, but it wasn't the heart and the spirit of Phi Kappa Theta. And so wherever we were going to put these letters on it, and that was going to be home for a while. And then came the tragic part of watching them take a giant backhoe and sort of just demolish our house. They sort of just collapsed it on top of itself, and what we were left with was just a big pile of rubble. And it was that was my, when I finally did make it up to Michigan Tech to be there, that was the first thing I saw. Where that house was in my head in that first picture that I showed you. That's how I remember it. What was left was just looked like a pile of junk, and that's what made it real then when I first saw it. It wasn't real till I saw it. And for a while, what was left became like a memorial. People would come every day and leave flowers and, donations, and the community was just amazing throughout the whole thing. They would come every day and just make sure we had breakfast and make sure we had, lunch and something to eat, and They were just amazing, so concerned. They would hold spaghetti dinners and things like that to raise money for us. They knew that financially, I think after any house fire or tragedy, it puts people in a real bad financial situation. You lose everything. You're starting over. Everything you've collected over, in this case, 60 years of that house being around, all that history, all that stuff, pretty much gone. There wasn't a whole lot salvageable from it, but yeah, it sort of became a little memorial out front, and I was just kind of blown away by people's concern and generosity. We actually held a candlelight vigil in remembrance of Andy, and this was after we had just came back from his funeral, which was by far one of the saddest moments of my life, if not the saddest. The images of seeing someone die so young and just burned into my brain, just the response of his family and his loved ones and all of us, something about seeing grown men cry has always gotten to me, and I don't know what it is. I think I almost get choked up thinking about it, because I think men are just so strong sometimes, and when you see few hundred plus fraternity brothers show up and they all have tears in their eyes, it's a sad moment. And so when we got back up to the school, we decided with the community to have sort of a little memorial service up there, because like I said, it was about 9 hours away from where Andy was from, so not a lot of the people were able to share in the actual funeral, and this was our way of honoring him when we were up there. And then came the daunting task of dealing with this pile of rubble, but we sort of made it like this is like a little Iwo Jima moment. But we planted our flag in it. It was still our house, and we went through and tried to salvage as much as we could. We knew, like I said, we knew we were going to need money. We pulled all the copper pipes and things like that out. We separated things into piles of metal. Anything we could sell or salvage went into certain piles, and it took us about an entire week of working through it. But we were able to kind of sift through, and it's kind of weird the things you find after a fire. It's like when you hear those stories about after a tornado and this house was untouched and this wasn't. It was the same thing underneath this rubble. You'd find an unshattered mug, like a fraternity mug or something. And I remember I found Andy's license, and that was kind of eerie, but just it's just weird the things that you find and the things that are okay and untouched, by the fire, and just amazes me. But it was a pretty daunting task. It was tough. It was hard on everybody. It was, normally during orientation week everybody's out partying and having a good time, and we're dealing with this just disaster. We had no place for us to live. There was, within 7 days of this happening, there was literally going to be 20 guys moving into that house that now are completely displaced. And luckily, like I said, the community was amazing. Someone actually was selling a fraternity house on the main strip, College Avenue, and by all the other fraternities. And he hadn't sold this house yet, heard about our disaster that happened, and offered to rent us this house for the next year while we figured things out. And that was just an absolute blessing and such a weight off of our shoulders while we figured things out. And while you're going through this rubble and doing this job that's just completely awful, you find ways to have fun. I found this golf club in the rubble, and we started taking pot shots, just hitting random objects out of this rubble, just kind of releasing some stress and blowing off some steam. And this is me. It got pretty good form here. And like I said, throughout all this, it didn't divide us. It drew us closer together than we have ever been as a fraternity. In my lifetime. And this is just, I love this picture. It's a spirit of how things were. We found our flag, we pieced it back together, and we sort of rallied around it. And when we finally got to the bottom of that pile, what was left was our basement, the same basement that we used to hang out in and have a good time in. And we sort of had a little party in the basement. It was just us, I remember the foosball table was there, and it was all almost completely destroyed and burned, and and people got it into like a salvageably working order, and there was foosball going on, and the bar was still there, and it was pretty much untouched, and people set it up on blocks, and it was just a cool moment. It was like a last little party in the basement in the house, and like I said, the bonds of brotherhood are something that only the people that experience it can know what it's like. But in that moment, you just feel really, really close to these guys, and so thankful that you have them in their life or in your life. And this was sort of a little brotherly picture we took. We were invited to go to a spaghetti dinner that was being held by one of the sororities for us, and coming out, we decided we should all take a little picture. And this was a group of us that did end up making it to the event, and it was kind of, I remember this was like the early stages of our cleanup crew as we were waiting for everybody to get up to where the university is, and I don't know, it's just this picture just reminds me of going through that, and like I said, the bonds that I developed with these guys over that time is just incredible. Every Labor Day weekend, roughly September 1st, is our alumni reunion. So literally, 2 weeks away from when this happened, all of our alumni, or a lot of them, were planning to come up there anyway and celebrate this alumni reunion. And so when they did come up there, it was a huge showing. Alumni came from everywhere. They wanted to show their support, see how they could help, and it was a really unbelievable turnout. But you can see this is us rallying together around, guys that I maybe have never met before, and we're actually on the site of the house right now, sort of saying a little prayer for Andy, and kind of just rallying around the house, and just showing our love for the house, and trying to figure out what we can do going forward. And that's when we sort of adopted this theme of the phoenix. And the phoenix was like it's a bird of flame that sort of rises from the ashes. We thought, what better fitting symbol of what we want to do is, we have this pile of ashes, and we want to rise from that and rebound and recover, and we did, and this is how we did it. First step was we actually owned the house next door to our fraternity house as well. And that house was so badly damaged because they were so close together and the fire was so hot that we had to knock that down too. So that was another tragic loss of property, and but it was with good intentions, because what we wanted to do was rezone the two lots together, give us an area to build a new house, and to have a decent sized parking lot. Parking was always an issue at the house, and so that kind of solved. We rezoned those two lots, and that sort of solved that issue for us. But this was pictures of us tearing down our second house, and before long, we started to break ground and slowly build up our new house. I guess it sort of looks maybe eerily similar to the last one, but that was designed specifically so that we sort of maintain some of the character of the old house. You try to maintain as much as you can. You'll never have exactly that same feel of that old farmhouse, but this was our baby. This was what we started from the ground up, and it's unbelievable thinking about a bunch of college guys, organizing an entire home build like this, but something that slowly but surely it came together. Before you know it, we had a house. We had a house again, and it was the newest, safest fraternity house on campus. Full sprinkler systems, fireproof floors, and fireproof stairwells, and this house will, even if it caught fire, it would never burn to the ground. Like, it's built like an office building, and it was amazing. And that was all from the help of our alumni and the dedication of our active brothers, and just the support of the community, everyone. And it was a mind-blowing process to go through, to come from such tragedy to a point where you're looking at this brand new house, and it just shows you that sometimes when you're in those tragic moments, you see only the tragedy, and you don't see what's going to come from it. You don't see that, like in this case, the bond of the fraternity brothers was stronger than I've ever seen it in my lifetime, and the way I'm bonded to those people now is so incredibly tight because of dealing with this and going through this. And we have a new house because of it, this new safe, amazing fraternity house. And just so much can come from tragedy that you don't even see. So many little things. And so when you're in the moment, in the tragic moment, you got to just persevere and make it through. And eventually you'll be on the other side. Sooner or later, it's over your shoulder.